Hello everyone, I'm glad you could join us. Tonight, we're going to think about something truly vast, how the universe might end. So get comfortable, let yourself relax, and let your mind drift among the stars. Over 12 chapters, we will explore different theories, each one imagining the final fate of everything. And now we will begin with Chapter 1, the last flicker of stars, as their light slowly fades and the galaxies grow quiet. Chapter 1, the last flicker of stars. In the beginning, the sky was alive with light. Stars burned everywhere across the heavens, filling the dark with endless warmth and color. They shimmered in every shade of gold and blue, their brilliance scattered like dust across the cosmic sea. But time is patient, and even the brightest flame must fade. One by one, the stars begin to dim, each running out of the fuel that once kept them alive. Their fires grow weaker, their colors dull, their warmth softens until at last they are quiet. The galaxies remain, vast and ancient, but within them, the stars die in silence. No one hears it happen. There is no sound in space, no grand finale, only a fading light that once filled countless worlds. Imagine looking up from a planet that has survived long enough to see this change. The sky that once blazed with constellations now feels thinner, quieter, emptier. The familiar stars are gone, and the few that remain seem far apart, flickering like the last embers of a dying fire. You would not notice the fading at first. 1 billion years pass slowly, and the light of a star takes ages to reach the edge of darkness. But as more stars burn out, the night begins to change. The Milky Way, once a river of brightness stretching across the heavens, becomes pale. The clusters of light dissolve into faint glimmers, and the horizon of the universe grows colder. It is as if the universe itself is taking a long breath, exhaling its last warmth into the quiet. In those remaining places where stars still shine, their light feels heavier, older, slower. The great engines of creation have long since gone still. New stars are no longer born. The clouds of gas and dust that once gave birth to suns have been spent, scattered, or frozen. The stellar nurseries that once glowed with the promise of life now hang as cold, transparent veils, drifting through empty galaxies. Only the oldest stars remain, ancient red giants and faint white dwarfs, glowing softly against the void. Across the galaxy, worlds that once flourished now sleep beneath endless night. Their suns have burned away, leaving only frozen oceans and silent skies. Mountains glitter with frost that will never melt, and the air has long since vanished. Yet even in that silence, there is a strange beauty. The faint glow of dying stars reflects off frozen plains, shimmering like candlelight through crystal. It is peaceful, timeless, and infinite. Imagine floating between those stars, moving slowly through the stillness. You pass remnants of once bright systems, planets turned to ice, rings of dust circling invisible cores. Every few light years, another faint glow appears, and you can feel the history in it. Each dying star is a story, a record of what once was. Some were homes to life, some burned alone, but all have given their light to the universe, and all are fading together. Eventually, even the faintest stars exhaust their strength. They collapse inward, cooling until their glow can no longer be seen. The last red dwarfs, those tiny and patient suns that burned for trillions of years, will fade too. When they go dark, the universe will lose its final natural light. No new stars will form, no new warmth will spread. The cosmos will enter its quietest age, when darkness becomes the only sky. But before that silence settles completely, there will be moments of brief beauty. The last few stars will flicker, sending their light outward for the final time. Each photon will travel endlessly, never finding a new world to warm, never touching another surface, only moving forward forever. The light will continue long after its source has died, carrying the memory of fire into the infinite dark. There is something deeply peaceful in this vision. The stars are not destroyed, they simply finish their story. They have burned with purpose, created the elements of life, lit the birth of galaxies, and watched the rise and fall of worlds. Their fading is not an ending, but a rest, a return to stillness. The universe does not mourn them, it only grows quieter, settling into calm after an eternity of motion. The last flicker of starlight will shine in the deepest corners of space, a single glowing heartbeat in the vast cosmic body. It will pulse once, then fade, leaving only the soft background of the universe itself. No shadows will remain, for there will be no light left to cast them. Only the quiet hum of existence will endure, the faint echo of what once burned so bright. As the stars fade, the galaxies will begin to blur into darkness. Their spirals dissolve into faint whispers of light, their arms thinning like mist. You might imagine the cosmos falling asleep, each star closing its eyes one by one, until the entire universe is resting beneath an infinite blanket of calm. In that final glow, there is no fear and no loss. The stars have done their work. They have given light to the darkness, life to the emptiness, and beauty to the unknown. They will fade not in tragedy but in peace, knowing their warmth has carried through eternity. And as their light drifts endlessly outward, it becomes part of something greater, merging with the quiet breath of the cosmos itself. When the last star fades, the universe will not end. It will continue in silence, infinite and vast, filled with the memory of light. Every atom, every photon, every whisper of warmth will remain, woven into the fabric of time. The stars will sleep, but their story will live forever, shining unseen across the endless dark. Chapter 2: Galaxies Drifting Apart. In the earliest days of the cosmos, the galaxies were close enough that their light could still touch each other. Vast spirals of stars, glowing blue and gold, spun in graceful harmony through the expanding fabric of space. They collided gently, merged, and danced together across the dark. But that time has passed. Now, the great clusters have begun to drift apart, carried away by the quiet stretching of the universe itself. The expansion is slow, invisible to the eye, but unstoppable. Every moment, every second, space grows larger, carrying everything further and further away. Imagine standing at the edge of a galaxy, looking out across the black. What once appeared full of neighbors is now mostly empty. The light from distant galaxies is stretched thinner, its colors fading into red as space expands. Those lights are not dying, they are simply being pulled beyond reach, their wavelengths stretched until they slip away into invisibility. Each galaxy becomes its own island, alone in an ocean that has no shore. The stars within each galaxy still spin, their light still glows, but the space between galaxies is growing larger than imagination can hold. When the universe was young, those distances were manageable. Light could travel from one cluster to another. Messages written in starlight could cross the cosmos. But as billions of years passed, the expansion quickened. The galaxies began to drift apart faster than light could travel between them. Now, even the closest neighbors recede into the void, their light forever lost to the darkness. If you could watch this unfolding from above, you would see the universe breathing. Each galaxy moves outward, like a petal unfurling from an infinite flower. The vast web of cosmic filaments, the grand structure of the universe stretches thinner. Where once matter was dense, it now spreads apart like fine mist. Space itself expands, not into anything, but within itself. It is not the galaxies that move through space, but the space between them that grows, silently stretching everything it holds. From within one galaxy, you would never notice the motion. The stars still rise and fall in familiar patterns. The orbits of planets remain steady, and everything feels still. But across the greater scale, the change is profound. The light that once took millions of years to reach us now takes billions. Each flicker we see in the night sky is older, dimmer, more distant than the last. Eventually, there will come a time when no galaxies can be seen at all. The night sky will no longer hold distant lights, only the stars of our own galaxy glowing faintly in the dark. As time continues, even those neighboring stars will fade from sight. The galaxies that remain bound by gravity clusters like our local group will merge together, forming one massive, elliptical shape. The Milky Way and Andromeda will become one, their stars mingling in a slow, luminous waltz. But beyond that merged galaxy, there will be nothing visible. The rest of the universe will have drifted too far away. The light from distant galaxies will no longer reach us. They will vanish into a horizon of darkness, their glow stretched to invisibility by the ceaseless expansion. This is not destruction, but separation. The universe is not collapsing or burning away. It is simply moving apart. The great bridges of light between galaxies are growing longer and thinner until they break completely. In the future, an observer living within one isolated galaxy might look into the night sky and believe theirs is the only one in existence. The ancient cosmic history, the knowledge that there were once trillions of galaxies shining together, will be invisible, hidden by the deep black between them. The stars will still burn, for a time. The merged galaxies will still shimmer with their remaining suns. But each isolated galaxy will drift alone, surrounded by infinite dark. The faint glow of the cosmic background radiation, once bright and warm, will fade as well. It will cool and stretch, becoming so faint that even the most sensitive instruments will no longer detect it. The memory of the Big Bang will slip quietly beyond the reach of perception. In the far future, the emptiness between galaxies will become so vast that even the smallest particles rarely meet. Photons of light will travel endlessly, but they will never arrive anywhere. Their paths will stretch forever through the expanding dark. Time itself will continue to move forward, yet every passing moment will grow quieter, emptier, slower. Imagine floating within one of those lonely galaxies, long after the others have vanished from sight. The stars around you still shine, but the background of space is utterly black. No distant galaxies, no faint clusters, no glowing filaments, only darkness. The sense of vastness becomes absolute. You are in a sea so wide that there are no visible shores, only the quiet hum of gravity keeping your galaxy together. As ages pass, gravity within each galaxy slowly reshapes it. Stars drift closer, then fall toward the center, where black holes grow heavier and more dominant. The stars that remain move in graceful loops, their light weaker and older than before. Around them, planets drift in perfect silence. The faint glow of starlight reflects off their frozen surfaces, illuminating the darkness with a ghostly shimmer. The expansion continues. It does not stop. It does not rest. Every corner of space grows larger. Every atom is carried further from every other. The galaxies, those brilliant islands of light, become smaller dots within an ever-growing sea. They do not fight the motion. They simply exist within it, drifting slowly outward, like leaves on a wind that never ends. If you were to look out into the future, billions upon billions of years ahead, you would see only one galaxy remaining within your visible universe. Everything else would be too far away for light to ever reach you. The stars that still burn within your galaxy would be the last reminders of a once-connected cosmos, and eventually, even those would fade. This slow drifting apart is the universe's way of breathing out. It is the long exhale after the fiery creation of everything. The galaxies move further away, not out of chaos, but from the quiet rhythm of cosmic expansion, a natural continuation of the beginning. Every inch of space holds that same silent stretch, carrying the memory of the Big Bang outward forever. There is beauty in this stillness. The growing separation does not erase what once was. Every photon of light that has ever existed still travels, even if it never reaches another world. Every star that once shone still leaves its echo somewhere in the vastness. The universe, though emptying, is filled with memory. Its silence is not loneliness, but peace, the calm that follows creation. As the galaxies drift apart, they leave behind trails of faint light and invisible energy, traces of their passage across the fabric of time. The cosmos grows colder, dimmer, slower, but also more serene. Every motion becomes more graceful, every change more subtle, until expansion itself is the only thing that remains. In this far future, there will be no boundary, no edge, no center, only infinite space, stretching without sound or resistance. Galaxies drifting endlessly, each carrying its history like a glowing lantern through the night. And somewhere within that vastness, life, or what remains of it, might look up one last time at the dark and understand that everything, no matter how far it drifts, began together. Chapter 3. The Final Supernovae. There comes a time in the life of every star when its fire begins to falter. For billions of years, it has burned steadily, fusing hydrogen into helium, radiating warmth and light into the surrounding dark. But nothing in the universe lasts forever. Eventually, the balance that holds a star together begins to break. Its fuel runs low, its heart grows unstable, and what was once a steady, life-giving light begins to tremble. When that trembling reaches its limit, something extraordinary happens. The star dies not quietly, but with the most spectacular display the cosmos can offer. It becomes a supernova. Imagine watching from a quiet planet orbiting a distant Sunday. One night, a point of light in the sky brightens, outshining everything else. It grows so luminous that it casts shadows on your world, so fierce that it can be seen in daylight. That light comes from a single star tearing itself apart in an explosion so powerful that it can outshine an entire galaxy for a moment in time. It is both the end and the beginning, destruction and creation intertwined in one breathtaking instant. Inside that explosion, the elements of existence are born. Iron, gold, oxygen, and carbon, all the atoms that make up planets, oceans, air, and life itself, are forged in the violent heart of dying stars. Every cell in your body carries the memory of those explosions. Every grain of sand, every drop of water, every breath of air was once part of a star that lived, burned, and died in fire. When the last stars go supernova, it is not just the death of suns, it is the final act of creation. The final supernovae will not come all at once. They will happen over unimaginable spans of time, one by one, across the quieting universe. In some galaxies, a few young stars will still have enough fuel left to explode. In others, the stellar fields will already have dimmed, leaving only the ghosts of light behind. The universe will become a theatre of scattered brilliance, an occasional flash across the endless black, a brief moment of colour and radiance that fades again into silence. If you were to drift through space in those distant ages, you would see a rare beauty. Far away, a lonely star begins to tremble, its light flickering with strange rhythm. Then, in an instant, it expands outward in a violent burst. The explosion releases energy beyond comprehension, creating shockwaves that ripple through the surrounding void. The gases billow outward in brilliant colours, crimson, violet, and blue, painting the dark with one final masterpiece. Those colours linger for thousands of years before fading, leaving behind a nebula, the delicate skeleton of a dead star. At the centre of the nebula, something remains. Sometimes it is a neutron star, a dense, spinning core, no larger than a city but heavier than the Sunday. Sometimes it becomes a black hole, a point of gravity so immense that even light cannot escape. These remnants are the keepers of memory, the witnesses of the universe's fiery youth. Long after their light fades, they continue to spin silently in the dark, holding the echo of what once was. The final supernovae are not just events, they are transitions. The universe changes with each one. The bright gas they release becomes part of new stars, new planets, new beginnings, though eventually, even that cycle ends. In the far future, when the galaxies have drifted apart and star formation slows to a whisper, the last of the massive stars will ignite and burn out in quick succession. Each explosion will send one more breath of light into the dark, a farewell message to the cosmos. In that era, the universe will be mostly calm. The great clusters will have thinned, the brilliant spirals will have faded into dim clouds, but occasionally, a flare of light will pierce the silence. A distant supernova will bloom like a flower of fire, reminding the cosmos of what it once was. The explosion's glow will travel through the expanding space, though fewer and fewer eyes will remain to see it. The light will stretch, redden, and cool until it becomes part of the background itself, the universe's last whispers of brightness. The final supernovae will mark the closing of the stellar age. They will be the last great bursts of creation before the universe slips fully into its long twilight. After the explosions fade, the remaining stars will be smaller and fainter, red dwarfs burning gently for trillions of years. They will not explode, but instead cool slowly into darkness. The age of fire will give way to the age of embers. Think of how silent that future will be. No more brilliant star births in the nebulae. No more galaxies sparkling with billions of suns. only faint red points of light scattered across the vast black. Between them, the remnants of supernovae, great delicate clouds drifting through the void, the ashes of stars that once burned with unimaginable heat. Each cloud is a sculpture of time, shaped by gravity and memory. Even as the last supernovae fade, they leave behind beauty. The nebulae they create are vast and intricate, stretching across light years of space. Their edges shimmer faintly in ultraviolet light, while their centers pulse with the last radiation of decay. These are the final works of cosmic art, painted on the canvas of eternity. In their shapes and colors, you can see the echoes of every star that came before, a reminder that creation and destruction are never truly separate. One day, there will be a final supernova. Somewhere, far in the future, a single massive star will collapse and explode. Its light will race outward in every direction, crossing billions of empty light years before fading forever. That light will be the last bright signal of the universe's youthful fire. After that, no new stars will form, no new explosions will bloom. The sky will darken slowly, not with violence but with peace. And yet, there is a kind of grace in this ending. The final supernovae will have done their work. They will have filled the cosmos with the elements of life, the materials of worlds, the dust that someday might shine again. They are the universe's way of giving back what it once borrowed, returning its light to the dark from which it came. If you listen closely to the silence that follows, you can almost hear it breathing, the faint hum of radiation, the echo of long-faded explosions, the quiet rhythm of space expanding. It is not the sound of death, but of rest. The universe is settling into its long night, wrapping itself in the gentle glow of its last memories. In that infinite calm, every supernova that ever was continues to shine, not in light, but in the atoms of everything that remains. The iron in your blood, the gold in your ring, the oxygen in your lungs, all are the songs of dying stars. Even when the last supernova fades, their music endures, written across the atoms of the cosmos. Chapter 4. Black dwarfs take over. When the last supernova fades, and the clouds of its remnants drift into silence, a quieter kind of universe begins to emerge. The great age of fire has passed. What remains are smaller stars, dim red embers scattered through the vast black of space. They glow faintly, keeping watch over the empty reaches where once galaxies blazed with light. Time stretches on, and those red stars burn through their long reserves of fuel, slower and slower, until even their gentle light begins to falter. What follows is a stillness deeper than any before, a calm that seems to settle over everything. White dwarfs now fill the cosmos. They are the last sparks of ancient stars, the leftover hearts that once burned brightly. Each one is small, dense, and glowing with the memory of its former life. Imagine them scattered through endless space, shining like tiny beads of pale light. They no longer fuse atoms in their cores. They no longer create the heavy elements of life. They simply cool, radiating away the heat that remains from their once living fire. At first, they glow white hot, their surface is bright with stored energy. Over billions of years, they fade to blue, then to yellow, and finally to a dull, deep red. Their glow softens and dims until, to the distant eye, they vanish entirely. When that last trace of light is gone, what remains is something the universe has never seen before: the black dwarf. A black dwarf is a star that has forgotten how to shine. It is the quiet corpse of what was once a sun, cold and hard, its atoms frozen into a stillness that has no warmth left to give. To stand near one would be to stand beside a monument to time itself. Its surface would be darker than coal, its gravity immense, its silence unbroken. The light that once poured from it for billions of years is gone forever. To reach the age when black dwarfs take over, the universe must live for unthinkable spans of time. Not billions, but trillions of years. The galaxies have long since drifted apart, leaving each one isolated, a lonely island in a vast and ever-growing sea. Within these islands, the stars that remain are few and faint. The black dwarfs gather slowly, filling the void like seeds of night scattered across the cosmic soil. Imagine a galaxy that once blazed with hundreds of billions of suns. Its spirals shone bright against the dark, full of young blue stars and glowing clouds of gas. Now, after countless ages, that same galaxy is almost invisible. Its stars have cooled, its nebulae have dispersed. The black dwarfs drift quietly, invisible to the eye, yet still present, moving slowly through the silent reaches of space. They have become the bones of the universe, the skeleton left after all the brightness has burned away. Some still orbit the remnants of planets, dark worlds frozen solid, circling in silence. Others wander alone, pulled gently by the slow gravity of their neighbors. The universe, once so full of motion and light, becomes a place of calm, its great dance reduced to a slow, measured drifting. In this era, light has become rare. If you were to look up from one of those frozen worlds, the sky would no longer sparkle with constellations. Instead, it would be almost completely black. The nearest black dwarfs would be invisible to the eye, detectable only by the faintest pull of their gravity. Occasionally, one might collide with another, releasing a brief pulse of energy, a whisper of heat into the cold. But such moments are vanishingly rare. The universe is too vast and time too slow. As the ages continue, the black dwarfs cool further. Their temperature drops close to absolute zero. The atoms inside them grow sluggish, their vibrations fading into stillness. Some theories suggest that when the universe is old enough, quantum tunneling might cause the matter inside black dwarfs to collapse or fuse again, producing faint bursts of light before vanishing forever. But these events would be so rare, so slow, that they would barely disturb the deep quiet that now fills the cosmos. If you could drift through space at that time, you would see a scene unlike any before. You would pass endless distances of total darkness. The space between galaxies would be colder than ever. Then, suddenly, your instruments might detect a black dwarf nearby, a sphere of perfect night, massive yet invisible. It would curve the faint background light of the universe around it, bending the glow of the distant stars that once were. You would not see its surface, only the distortion it creates, a soft warping of the surrounding black. Some black dwarfs will find themselves drawn together by gravity. Over time, they will spiral closer, colliding in slow, soundless mergers. The impact may release a brief flash of energy, the last sparks in a universe that has nearly forgotten what light feels like. Then, even that will fade. The merged remnant will settle into another black dwarf, a little larger, a little denser, a little quieter. The universe at this stage is like a sleeping giant. Everything that once was active and brilliant now rests. The galaxies are no longer visible as structures. Space itself has expanded so far that each cluster of black dwarfs drifts in its own isolated pocket, separated by distances too great for light ever to cross. The stars that once filled the sky with life and warmth have become the dark dust of memory. And yet, there is a strange beauty in this stillness. The black dwarfs are not gone, they endure. Each one carries within it the history of the cosmos. They are the final shape of the stars that built the universe, quiet witnesses to everything that has ever been. If the universe had eyes, these would be them, half closed, dreaming of the time when everything shone. Perhaps somewhere in that deep future, among the countless sleeping remnants, a black dwarf will collide with another, creating a spark that briefly illuminates a corner of space. It would be a short, fragile moment of brightness, a reminder of what once was. Then it too would fade into the dark, leaving the stillness undisturbed once more. Over time, even the faintest energy within the black dwarfs will drift away. They will cool until they reach perfect equilibrium with the background temperature of the universe, which itself continues to drop. At that moment, there will be no difference between the black dwarfs and the darkness that surrounds them. The universe will be filled with their invisible presence, a vast collection of silent stones floating through infinity. If you could hold one in your hands, you would feel nothing at all, for there would be no warmth left to touch. It would be heavier than you could imagine, yet colder than the deepest void. Its atoms would be locked in place, no longer moving, no longer alive with heat or light. The last breath of the stars would have faded long ago, leaving only this perfect, endless stillness. The age of black dwarfs is the age of rest. It is the time when the universe, after burning so fiercely for so long, finally begins to sleep. It is the quiet after the song, the calm after the storm, the deep breath of creation settling into peace. The cosmos has not ended yet, but it has grown gentle. Its light is gone, but its memory remains, hidden within the cold hearts of those ancient stars. Chapter 5. Planetary Ghosts. When the stars have gone silent and the black dwarfs rule the heavens, the planets that once danced around those suns remain. They do not vanish. They continue to drift in their endless orbits, circling their dead stars in complete stillness, as though still loyal to a light that no longer exists. These are the planetary ghosts, the forgotten children of a universe that has grown old. Imagine standing on one of those worlds. Once it might have been warm, its skies bright and blue, its lands alive with motion. Now everything is frozen beneath a crust of ancient ice. The oceans are locked solid, their surfaces glittering faintly in the dim reflection of distant starlight. Mountains stand tall and silent, their peaks covered in frost that will never melt. The air is still, heavy, and lifeless. The wind has forgotten how to move. The sun that once rose over this planet is now a black dwarf, a dark sphere invisible against the void. It no longer gives heat or light, yet its gravity still holds the planet close. The world circles its dead parent faithfully, completing orbit after orbit, though time itself has lost meaning. Each revolution takes place in darkness, without sunrise or sunset, without seasons, without change. If you looked up from that planet's surface, you would see nothing but blackness, no stars, no constellations. The nearby galaxies have drifted so far away that their light can no longer reach this part of space. The night sky, once filled with billions of suns, is now a silent ocean of pure emptiness. Perhaps one faint glow could still be seen from a nearby black dwarf, but even that would appear as little more than a shadow among shadows. The ground beneath your feet would be made of frozen minerals, rock turned as hard as steel. Every atom inside it vibrates slower and slower as the universe cools, until even movement itself becomes rare. Deep beneath the ice, the remnants of an ancient core still radiate a trace of heat, not enough to warm the surface, but enough to keep the planet from breaking apart completely. That tiny heat is the planet's heartbeat, faint and almost forgotten, but still present, still resisting the absolute cold of eternity. Some of these worlds once held life. Oceans once rippled beneath warm suns. Winds once carried the scent of forests or the salt of waves. Creatures once walked, swam, or flew beneath skies filled with color. Now all of that is gone. The oceans are glaciers that stretch from pole to pole. The air is crystallized, forming thin sheets of frost that shimmer faintly in the eternal dark. The forests are nothing more than shadow fossils, outlines of long-lost growth preserved in the permafrost of time. If an ancient observer were to visit one of these dead planets, they would walk through a world of frozen echoes. They might find the remains of mountains eroded not by wind or water, but by the slow expansion of ice that cracked stone apart molecule by molecule. They might see the faint outlines of dried riverbeds, now filled with frost that has lain untouched for trillions of years. They might see the ghostly remains of cities, structures carved from elements that no longer decay because even decay requires motion, and motion has nearly stopped. In some distant corners of the universe, planets are torn away from their stars altogether. They drift freely through interstellar space, becoming rogue worlds. These wanderers move silently through the void, their surfaces colder than the heart of a glacier, their atmospheres frozen into invisible shells. They do not orbit anything. They are adrift, carried by the slow flow of cosmic expansion. They are the true ghosts, alone, in an infinite sea that has forgotten the warmth of creation. Inside some of these frozen worlds, there might still be pockets of energy. The slow decay of radioactive elements could keep their cores warm, creating small seas of liquid buried deep beneath the crust. These hidden oceans would never see light again, but they could endure for countless ages, like secret memories of the time when life still breathed. Perhaps there are chemical reactions taking place there, simple but persistent, a faint echo of the spark that once ignited life. It may not be life as we know it, perhaps just the whisper of complexity that refuses to end. In the farthest future, When even black dwarfs cool into nothing, these planetary ghosts will continue to exist. Their orbits will weaken as gravity itself stretches thinner across the growing void. Eventually, many will drift away from their parent remnants, becoming free once more. The galaxies, now invisible, will no longer define space. Only these small, cold fragments will remain, scattered like pebbles in an infinite desert. If you could travel among them, you would see worlds of glass, ice, and stone, each one unique, each one holding the last traces of its history. Some would be smooth and polished by millennia of silence. Others would be cracked and fractured, their surfaces torn apart by the slow expansion of space itself. All would be dark, and all would be still. Yet even in that stillness, there is something beautiful. These planets are survivors. They were born in the furnaces of stars, sculpted by gravity and shaped by time. They have endured through every age of the universe, through the blazing youth of galaxies, through the long twilight of the stars, and into the final night. They are the memory of creation itself, the physical remains of all that was. In their frozen silence, they hold stories. Every ridge, every crater, every layer of ice tells of a time when heat flowed and light filled the sky. Even when all else is gone, these planetary ghosts remain to bear witness to everything that once existed. They are the pages of the universe's diary, written not in words, but in the scars and patterns left on their surfaces. As time continues, they will cool further. The temperature of the universe will approach absolute zero, and even the faint motion of atoms will fade. The worlds will stop moving entirely, locked in the stillness of infinity. There will be no wind, no heat, no vibration, no change. Each planet will become a perfect monument to time's final victory. And yet, in that stillness, the planets will remain beautiful. Not beautiful in the way of color or warmth, but in the purity of their endurance. They will have outlasted everything else. They will rest in silence, perfectly preserved, perfectly calm, perfectly at peace. If consciousness could exist in that distant age, it would find a strange comfort in the sight of these worlds. They are the last remnants of a universe that once teemed with energy, the last echoes of stars and life. They will not speak, they will not move, but they will remain. And in that endless night, their quiet persistence will be the universe's final memory of what it once was, full of light, full of fire, full of life. Chapter 6. The Breakup of Atoms. The stars are long gone. The galaxies have faded into the dark. What remains now is a universe almost empty, filled only with cold remnants and ancient matter. But even that will not last forever. The smallest pieces of everything we know, the atoms that once built stars, planets, and living beings, begin to face their own quiet ending. An atom is a structure of delicate balance. At its heart lies a nucleus made of protons and neutrons, surrounded by a cloud of electrons. It is held together by the forces of nature, the strongest and most faithful bonds in existence. For eons, these forces have guarded the integrity of matter, keeping the universe built and solid. Yet time itself can wear down even the strongest bond. Trillions upon trillions of years have passed. The universe has grown vast beyond measure. Space has stretched so far that light from ancient galaxies can no longer reach anything. Darkness is complete. The remaining matter drifts in slow motion, far apart, alone in the cold. The last black dwarfs, those quiet remnants of once luminous stars, have cooled to darkness. They no longer glow. Their heat has vanished into the endless void. In this age, nothing changes quickly. 1,000,000 years passes like a moment. The silence is perfect. But deep within that silence, decay begins its final work. Protons, once thought to be eternal, start to break apart. Each one takes longer than a human mind can imagine. Some physicists estimate that a single proton may live for 10 to the power of 34 years or even longer. But even such vast lifetimes are finite. Given enough time, every proton will eventually decay. When that moment comes, matter itself ceases to exist in the form we know. The nuclei that once made up atoms begin to disintegrate. Each proton splits into lighter particles, releasing a whisper of energy as it vanishes. That energy spreads out across the universe, joining the faint haze of radiation that fills all of space. It is not heat as we understand it, but a faint shimmer of motion that gradually loses strength as the universe expands. With the protons gone, the atoms unravel. The electrons, with nothing to orbit, drift freely. The very concept of solid matter disappears. There are no more elements, no more dust, no more stone or metal. The great structures that once filled the universe have melted into a sea of subatomic particles. This is the age of disassembly, when everything that ever existed is reduced to its smallest form. Molecules that once formed living cells dissolve completely. The carbon that built life, the oxygen that filled the air, the iron that glowed in the hearts of stars, all vanish into elementary particles that no longer bind together. The universe becomes a mist of electrons, positrons, photons, and neutrinos. These drift endlessly through space, rarely colliding, rarely interacting. Distances between them stretch until even a single interaction becomes rare beyond measure. The universe is now so large and so cold that events are almost non-existent. If we could watch this process unfold, we would see no violence, no explosion, no sound. It would happen quietly, molecule by molecule, proton by proton, a soft fading of structure into stillness. The atoms that once made mountains crumble not from force but from time itself. In this far future, energy still exists, but it is faint and spread too thin to do anything. No more stars can ignite. No more chemistry can take place. The concept of temperature loses its meaning, for heat requires contrast, and now everything is nearly the same. Every region of space approaches the same low-energy state. The universe becomes perfectly even, smooth and calm. The last survivors of structure are the black holes. For ages they have swallowed matter and light, holding them within their event horizons, but even they cannot last forever. Through a process known as Hawking radiation, they slowly lose their mass, evaporating particle by particle into the emptiness. When the last black hole finally fades, all that remains are faint particles and the weak glow of decay. As protons vanish, time continues. The numbers that describe these intervals are beyond comprehension. Years stretch into magnitudes so vast that they defy thought. A single second compared to this cosmic timescale is less than a spark in an infinite night. What remains is a universe without matter, without heat, without form. Energy still moves, but only in faint traces. The laws of physics still apply, yet there is nothing left for them to govern. The structure of existence has dissolved into the simplest possible state, and still, time goes on. The expansion of the universe continues. Every particle grows farther from every other. Distances become so immense that communication between them becomes meaningless. They drift apart until, for all practical purposes, they are alone. The last atoms to decay mark the end of material reality. The universe is no longer a place of stars and planets, but a quiet field of radiation spread thinly across endless space. There is no more sound, for sound needs matter. There is no more light that can be seen, for light requires an observer, and there are none left. There is only the endless passage of time, carrying with it the faint memory of everything that once existed. This is the true silence of the cosmos. Every structure has dissolved, every bond has ended, yet there is a strange beauty in that silence. The forces that once built galaxies have completed their work. The universe has reached perfect balance. Nothing changes anymore because everything that could change has already done so. It is not destruction but completion. Matter has returned to the most basic form possible. The journey that began with the Big Bang has come full circle, from pure energy to stars and life, and back to energy again. The universe breathes in cycles that take longer than eternity, and this is the exhale, the long and gentle release that follows creation. If any consciousness could still exist in this distant age, it would experience a peace beyond imagination. There would be no suffering, no struggle, no motion, only quiet, endless rest. The atoms that once formed thought have dissolved, but the memory of their patterns lingers in the faint hum of the universe. That hum is the final song of creation, stretching across infinite time, growing ever fainter, until it becomes silence. The breakup of atoms is not a violent ending, but a serene conclusion. It is the natural outcome of existence itself. All things that begin must eventually unwind. Every spark must fade. Yet in that fading there is a kind of grace, as if the universe, after all its storms and fire, has finally found its calm. When the last proton vanishes, the universe becomes a perfect stillness. There is no longer a difference between one place and another, no longer a flow of time that carries events. Only the infinite expanse of space, quiet, complete, and eternal. And in that stillness, the atoms that once formed stars, worlds, and life are not lost. They have become part of the final piece, part of the unbroken calm that will last for as long as time continues. The universe, in its final form, is not gone. It is resting. It is a dream without end. Chapter 7. The darkness deepens. The universe has grown old. Every atom that once built the stars has broken apart. Every black hole has faded. The last traces of heat have scattered into the endless distance. What remains is an expanse of almost perfect silence. Darkness fills everything. It is not the darkness of shadow or night, but the absence of all light. A depth so complete that it feels like the universe has forgotten how to shine. Time continues to move forward, yet there is nothing left to mark its passing. There are no suns to rise or set. There are no worlds to turn. There is only space, wide and still, stretching beyond the reach of imagination. The few particles that remain drift slowly, carried by the expanding fabric of reality itself. They do not collide. They do not form patterns. They simply exist, separated by distances so vast that the idea of proximity no longer has meaning. The darkness here is not empty in the ordinary sense. It is full of the faintest whisper of existence, a soft background of particles and radiation stretched so thin that it might as well be nothing. Yet within that near-nothingness lies the final expression of everything that has ever been. Every star, every planet, every thought and dream has been reduced to this thin veil of energy. The entire history of creation has become an invisible hum that drifts endlessly through the void. In this age, the temperature of the universe approaches absolute zero. The motion of particles slows to almost nothing. Entropy, the measure of disorder, has reached its highest point. Every difference, every imbalance that once drove motion and change, has been erased. The cosmos has become perfectly even. There are no bright places and no dark ones, no warm or cold regions, no up or down. It is one smooth field of quiet uniformity. To imagine this is to imagine a calm so profound that it erases the idea of movement itself. The forces that once shaped galaxies and ignited stars have weakened into insignificance. Gravity still exists, but there is almost nothing left to pull together. Light still moves, but it is so stretched by the expansion of space that its wavelength grows larger than the observable universe. It is light in name only, invisible and undetectable, a fading echo of a time when the cosmos was alive with brilliance. If one could float in this darkness, there would be no sensation of direction. There would be no landmarks, no glimmers, no signs of distance. Space would seem infinite in every way, yet the difference between one place and another would be meaningless. Every part of the universe would look the same, because nothing remains to make it different. The deepening darkness is the final chapter of time's long unfolding. It is not cruel or tragic. It is simply quiet. The universe has grown tired. The energy that once burned in the hearts of stars has been spent, transformed into radiation that has now stretched beyond the reach of sight. The cosmos has entered its final rest, where everything has become balanced and still. In the faint glow of what remains, the background radiation continues to fade. Its temperature drops infinitesimally as space expands. Once it was fierce and hot, a blinding afterimage of the Big Bang. Now it is so cold that even the most sensitive instruments could not detect it. The universe has become a dark sea without waves, a place where change no longer occurs. There are no more shadows, for shadows require light. There is no more time as we know it, for time requires events to measure. The universe has become timeless. It exists, but it does not evolve. It is a state of eternal stillness, where all motion has ceased and all stories have ended. The darkness itself is not a thing to fear. It is gentle, soft, complete. It is the natural end of everything that began. The stars lived their long lives, and their light traveled through the ages. Now that light has gone as far as it can go, it has spread out, cooled, and merged into the quiet fabric of space. The energy is still there, but it is thin beyond imagining. It no longer warms, no longer illuminates. It simply drifts forever. The deepening of the darkness marks the completion of the cosmic cycle. From energy came matter, from matter came life, and from life came awareness. Now all has returned to energy again, diffused and silent. The universe has reached perfect equilibrium. There is no more conflict, no more creation, no more destruction. It is strange to think that even in this final silence, the laws of physics remain. They persist, written into the structure of reality itself. They govern nothing now, yet they endure, unbroken and precise. They are the ghostly framework of a cosmos that no longer needs them. If consciousness could exist in this age, it would experience a peace beyond understanding. There would be no past or future, no longing or loss. There would be only being, simple and eternal. The darkness would not feel empty. It would feel infinite, as though every particle carried within it the memory of everything that ever was. The deep night of the universe is not the same as nothingness. It is the final resting place of everything that once existed. The galaxies that once sparkled like jewels have dissolved into this calm. The stars that once sang with light have fallen silent, their echoes drifting across eternity. The beings who once looked up at those stars are gone, but the trace of their atoms, their energy, their thought, still lingers in the background radiation. Every moment that ever happened still exists in a sense, stretched across the fabric of time, preserved as the faintest vibration in the sea of darkness. The universe has become an archive of silence, a record made of stillness itself. It holds no images and no sounds, yet everything is there, encoded in the geometry of what remains. The darkness deepens, but within it lies the memory of light, and so the cosmos rests. The expansion continues, but with nothing left to separate, it feels less like motion and more like sleep. The universe is asleep, dreamless, endless, floating in its own infinite quiet. If there were a way to describe this final darkness, it would be peace. Not the peace of completion or victory, but the peace of existence that asks for nothing and gives nothing in return. The darkness is all that remains, and it is enough. The deepening of the darkness is not a fall into nothingness, but a merging into balance. It is the universe returning to simplicity, to a state where all complexity has dissolved. What began as fire ends as calm. What began as brightness ends as quiet. The circle of existence is complete. And so, in the deepest hour of creation's long dream, the darkness settles fully. There is no edge, no end, only endless quiet stretching forever. The universe is asleep, wrapped in silence, and the darkness has become its final home. Chapter 8. The End of Energy. There comes a moment, so distant in the future that the word moment loses all meaning, when the last warmth of the cosmos begins to fade away. The universe, which once burned with unimaginable fire, now drifts in a quiet so complete that even time itself seems to hesitate. The stars have been gone for longer than memory can hold. The galaxies have stretched apart until each is alone, and now even that faint isolation begins to dissolve. There is no more light, no more glow, no more movement of particles that can be called heat. The universe has reached a point where energy is no longer exchanged. It has thinned beyond comprehension, spread so evenly that no corner of space is different from another. Every particle has cooled to its lowest possible energy state. There are no more gradients to drive change, no more imbalance to cause motion. Everything is calm, everything is equal, and everything is still. Imagine floating here. There is no sound, for sound needs matter. There is no light, for light has stretched until its waves are too long to be seen, too faint to be felt. There is only a smooth darkness that stretches forever in every direction. It is not black in the way of night skies or shadows. It is deeper than that. A darkness without contrast, without surface, without texture. It is the absence of difference itself. Long ago, the universe was alive with energy. Particles collided, stars blazed, galaxies collided and danced. The story of existence was one of motion and transformation, but all of that required energy to flow from one place to another, and now there are no places left. Energy cannot flow because everything has become the same. Every point in space holds the same amount of nothing. The temperature of the cosmos has fallen so close to absolute zero that even quantum vibrations fade into near silence. There is still energy, because energy cannot be destroyed, but it has become so evenly spread that it might as well be gone. Nothing can be done with it. It cannot warm, it cannot move, it cannot change. It simply exists as a thin, quiet residue of what once was. At this stage, entropy has reached its final height. The universe has achieved maximum disorder, which paradoxically looks like perfect stillness. When everything is random and uniform, there are no patterns left to form, no directions left to move. This is the true end of energy. It is not an explosion or collapse, but a quiet dissolving into balance. Every particle that remains floats endlessly through the expanding void. They do not interact because they are too far apart and too cold. The expansion of space continues, carrying them further and further from one another. Even if they moved, it would take longer than the lifetime of the universe for one to reach another. They drift forever, frozen, isolated, invisible. If one could stand in this age, there would be no sense of place. The universe would not look vast or small. It would simply be everything. The blackness would not seem threatening because there would be nothing left to lose, nothing left to change. It would feel eternal, calm, and endless. The silence would not be empty, but complete. Over time, even the last flicker of radiation fades. The cosmic background that began as fire, then cooled to microwave light, has now become a whisper with a wavelength larger than the observable universe. It stretches beyond the reach of time, beyond any chance of detection. The universe no longer glows. It has cooled beyond light itself. Energy, once the engine of creation, has now become too diluted to matter. The photons that once filled the universe with brightness are now so faint that they barely exist. Each one travels billions of trillions of years without ever meeting another. Their journeys are endless, their purpose gone. They move because they must, but nothing awaits them. The remaining matter, the ghostly particles that have not yet decayed, continue to exist at the edge of absolute zero. The universe is now so vast that each of these particles lives alone in its own infinite space. The idea of distance no longer applies because there is nothing left to measure between them. Each one is its own universe, surrounded by nothing. As energy continues to spread thinner and thinner, the concept of time itself begins to blur. Time is a measure of change, and when change ends, time loses its meaning. There are no more causes, no more effects. There is only existence without events. The clock of the cosmos has not stopped, but it has nothing left to count. The laws of physics still hold. They are still true, still perfect, still governing the quiet expanse of reality. But with no energy to shape, no motion to guide, they have become like music written for an instrument that no longer exists. The melody of creation has ended, and the silence is its final note. The end of energy does not feel sudden. It is not a collapse or an explosion. It is more like a fading breath, a candle slowly dimming until its last molecule of wax is gone. The light does not go out violently. It simply stops glowing because it has given all it had to give. The universe has done the same. Even in this final stillness, there remains a kind of beauty. The perfection of balance, the symmetry of stillness, is complete. The universe has reached a state where everything is equal and peaceful. Nothing struggles, nothing burns, nothing changes. It is a calm so pure that it becomes the definition of eternity. Every atom that once made stars, planets, oceans, and life is still here in some form, though scattered and silent. The heat of those stars has spread so thin that it now fills all of space evenly. It no longer warms or shines. It simply is. The story of the universe was never about its ending, but about the journey that led here. Every spark of energy that ever existed has played its part in reaching this quiet conclusion. If one could somehow be conscious at this time, one might feel the weightless peace of existence without form. There would be no body, no world, no light. only awareness floating in perfect balance. There would be no fear, because there would be nothing to lose. There would be no longing, because there would be nothing to reach for. There would only be the infinite calm of completion. As energy fades, the last movement of the universe slows beyond imagination. Particles drift apart until even their quantum connections weaken. The expansion of space continues endlessly, but there is nothing left to carry. The universe is now an ocean without waves, a sea without shores. This is the true heat death of the universe. Not destruction, not chaos, but perfect uniformity. It is the end of energy, not because energy has vanished, but because it can no longer do work. It has reached its final form, spread so evenly that it no longer changes the world around it. The cosmos, which once burst with creation and movement, now lies in perfect rest. It is not dead, for nothing has been destroyed. It is not asleep, for there is no dream left to wake from. It simply is, and that simple being is eternal. If one could listen closely enough, one might imagine hearing the echo of every sound that ever existed. The laughter of life, the crackle of stars, the hum of galaxies, all stretched and faded until they become one continuous tone that is no tone at all. That is the sound of the end of energy, the final harmony of existence dissolving into stillness. There is no edge to this quiet, no border where the universe ends. It expands forever, yet nothing within it moves. The silence is infinite, but it is not empty. It holds the memory of everything. Every photon that ever escaped a star still travels, faint and cold, through the endless dark. Every atom that ever danced in the heat of creation still drifts through the void. The universe remembers, even if it no longer speaks. Eventually, even the concept of eventual fades. The universe does not end in a moment, but in the slow passing of all distinction. What remains is not a world, not a place, but a state of perfect balance. This is the end of energy, the end of difference, the end of movement. The cosmos has become its own echo, a whisper stretched into infinity. And in that endless quiet, the universe rests. There is no farewell, no final spark, no sudden vanishing. There is only stillness. The kind of stillness that lasts forever. The kind of stillness that feels like peace. Chapter 9. Black holes evaporate. In the silent future that follows the death of every star, there remain only the black holes. They are the final giants of the cosmos, the last echoes of the age of light. When galaxies have faded and space has stretched into cold emptiness, the black holes still endure, dark and patient, surrounded by the quiet breath of infinity. They wait in a universe that has forgotten brightness. There are no suns, no galaxies, no starlight to guide them. Only gravity holds them in their place, the invisible weight of space bending around them like a frozen sea. They are the anchors of a cosmos that has otherwise gone still, vast shadows that outlast the memory of everything that once was. Each black hole was born in fire. Some were created when massive stars collapsed under their own gravity, their cores folding inward until light itself could no longer escape. Others came into being when galaxies collided, merging matter and energy into singular points of darkness. There may even have been some that formed in the first instant after creation itself, when the universe was still a storm of energy and chaos. Now they are all that remains, scattered through an ocean of silence. For countless ages they have fed, swallowing light, gas, dust, and stars. They consumed the hearts of galaxies, shaping the universe around them. Yet even their hunger has limits. When the last stars burned out and the last atoms froze, there was nothing left to devour. They have been alone ever since, drifting through an empty and expanding sky. At first, it was believed that these black holes would last forever, eternal monuments to the universe's violent beginning. But nature has no forever. Every process has its balance, every strength its opposite. In the deep mathematics of space and time lies a secret whisper of warmth that even black holes cannot silence. This whisper is called Hawking radiation. It is a quiet leak of energy, a soft escape of particles that appears at the edge of the black hole's invisible boundary. It happens when tiny pairs of quantum particles appear from the vacuum itself. One falls inward and is lost, while the other escapes outward into the cold. Each time this happens, the black hole loses a little of its mass. It is an exchange so small that it takes longer than any mind could measure, but it never stops. Over incomprehensible time, it adds up. The largest black holes hardly notice at first. For eons upon eons they remain unchanged, heavy and unmoved, surrounded by nothing but silence. But time in this age is vast beyond imagination. It does not flow in years or centuries. It moves in epochs so long that even the black holes must eventually feel its pull. The smaller black holes are the first to fade. As they shrink, their temperatures rise. The smaller they become, the faster they radiate. It is a slow unraveling at first, but as their mass decreases, the process accelerates. They glow faintly in wavelengths too long for any eye to see, shedding energy into the void. In their final moments, their heat increases sharply until, in a brief and final burst of light, they vanish completely. That last instant is brighter than a million suns, but there is no one left to see it. The medium black holes follow, disappearing one by one. Each death is a soft point of light in an otherwise perfect darkness. Each is the final breath of a star that died long ago, returning its last energy to the cosmos. Then the supermassive black holes remain, the ones that once anchored galaxies and shaped the fabric of existence. They are ancient beyond comparison. Their evaporation is so slow that it feels eternal, but eternity itself is patient. As the ages pass, the universe continues to expand. The black holes drift farther apart, separated by distances so great that no form of connection remains between them. They are islands of gravity in a sea without shores, surrounded by nothing but cold and silence. Around them, the faint radiation they emit becomes the only light left in all of creation. Each black hole shines invisibly, giving back the energy it once consumed. It is a gentle exchange, a balancing of the cosmic account. The universe is quiet now, but it is still alive in this soft exchange of heat. Over time, the light fades further. The black holes grow smaller, hotter, and more unstable, until their final moments come. When a black hole reaches the end of its life, it no longer holds back its energy. In its last instant, it releases a brief pulse of radiation, a final spark before dissolving into nothingness. It is not an explosion in the ordinary sense. It is a whisper of completion, the last note in the long song of the cosmos. The disappearance of each black hole smooths the fabric of space a little more. The deep wells they carved into reality flatten. The ripples of gravity that once defined their presence fade into stillness. The universe grows smoother, quieter, and more balanced. One by one, every black hole fades until the cosmos is left without them. When the final black hole evaporates, there is no ceremony. No light fills the darkness. No sound marks its passing. There is only a small release of energy, stretched instantly across a space so large that it becomes invisible. The universe has given back everything it once gathered. The cycle is complete. With their passing, the last concentrated sources of energy disappear. There are no stars, no fusion, no motion strong enough to stir the silence. The faint radiation that remains is spread evenly throughout all of existence. It no longer changes anything. It only exists, a thin veil of warmth drifting through the cold. The death of the last black hole marks the final transition from activity to stillness. The universe has reached perfect uniformity. Every point of space is the same as every other. There are no directions, no boundaries, no centers. The cosmos is now a single field of balance, without difference or purpose, yet infinite in calm. If one could somehow witness this moment, it would not feel like loss. It would feel like completion. The black holes that once devoured everything have released their energy back into the whole. They were born from collapse and ended in expansion. They were once symbols of destruction, but in the end they became instruments of peace. Their final radiation continues to travel endlessly, filling space with the faintest glow. It will never stop, because there is nowhere for it to stop. It will never fade entirely, because even fading has lost meaning. The universe has reached its final form. What remains is not empty. It is perfectly full of quiet. Every particle, every photon, every trace of existence is spread evenly through infinite space. It is the stillness of balance, not the void of absence. It is a calm that asks for nothing and moves for nothing. The last black hole has evaporated. There are no more horizons, no more shadows, no more centers of gravity. The universe is whole, smooth, and silent. It is a state beyond change, beyond time, beyond light. And in that endless quiet, the cosmos rests. It does not breathe or move, but it continues to be. The black holes are gone, and yet their story remains written into the structure of reality itself. Every particle that drifts now carries within it the memory of that gravity, that silence, that surrender. The universe has completed its journey, from fire to light, from light to shadow, from shadow to stillness. The last of the black holes has released its final warmth, and all that remains is peace. The darkness is deep, but it is gentle. The quiet is endless, but it is kind. The cosmos has returned to its simplest state, a calm beyond understanding, and so it rests forever, unchanged and eternal, wrapped in silence, bathed in nothing but its own infinite stillness. Chapter 10. The universe grows cold. The black holes have vanished. Their last whispers of light have faded into the vastness of space. There is no longer a place that bends gravity into deep wells, no longer a point where time stretches into forever. The universe has become smooth and quiet, an endless sea without waves or shores. Everywhere is the same. The light that once danced across galaxies has long since thinned into an invisible haze, stretched so far by the expansion of space that its energy is now almost nothing. The universe is dimmer than any night could ever be. There are no stars to twinkle, no planets to orbit, no warmth to travel from one place to another. Only the soft background hum of existence remains, faint and calm. Temperature itself has become a kind of memory. Once, heat was the heartbeat of the cosmos. It powered the burning of stars, the birth of worlds, the glow of nebulae, and the warmth of life. Now it is nearly gone. The last bits of heat drift aimlessly, scattered across endless distances. They do not flow from one thing to another, because there are no differences left for heat to move between. Everything is the same. At this point, the universe is unimaginably vast. It has expanded so much that what was once a galaxy is now smaller than a drop in an ocean, compared to the distances that separate one particle from another. Every atom that still exists is isolated, surrounded by unimaginable emptiness. Even light, which once traveled freely, now stretches into such long waves that it barely counts as energy at all. The average temperature of space hovers close to absolute zero. This is the point where motion stops, where atoms no longer vibrate, where time seems to lose its meaning because nothing changes anymore. It is not a sudden freeze, but a gentle settling. The cosmos is not dying violently. It is falling asleep slowly, peacefully, with each remaining trace of warmth fading like the last note of a long song. There was a time when heat shaped everything. In the beginning, it was all there was. The universe began in fire, in temperatures so high that matter and energy were the same. Everything that exists today was born from that heat. The stars carried it forward, passing it from one generation to another, burning, exploding, and creating light. Even life was simply another form of that warmth. But nothing can burn forever. Now the universe has reached its still point. The stars have gone out, the galaxies have faded, the black holes have evaporated. The last radiation is so faint it can no longer warm anything. The temperature everywhere is the same, a calm and uniform chill. There are no more gradients, no more differences, no more exchanges. The universe has reached thermal equilibrium, the ultimate balance between all things. Everywhere you look, if you could still look, is darkness. Not the darkness of night, because night implies the presence of day. This is a darkness without contrast. It is not an absence but a perfection, a smooth, silent calm that stretches in all directions without end. If you could float here, you would not feel cold, because cold only exists when compared to warmth. Here there is neither. There is no sensation at all, only stillness. The last remaining particles drift through the emptiness, almost motionless. Their energy spreads so thin that they are barely distinguishable from the vacuum that surrounds them. The expansion of the universe continues, but there is nothing left to carry apart. The distances between particles increase endlessly, and with each passing age, the faint traces of energy become even more diluted. Eventually, even the concept of space becomes difficult to describe. It is not an empty stage anymore. It is a smooth, featureless field of nothing changing. The cosmic background radiation, the ancient afterglow of the Big Bang, was once a warm light that filled the entire sky. It cooled as the universe expanded, shifting from blinding brightness to a faint microwave whisper. Now, it has cooled so completely that it is indistinguishable from the natural temperature of space itself. It no longer glows. It simply exists, uniform and eternal. The idea of time still applies, but it has lost its meaning. Time measures change, but there is almost no change left to measure. Each moment is the same as the next, stretching endlessly into infinity. The universe continues, but nothing within it evolves. It is like a clock that still ticks, but no longer moves its hands. In this era, known by physicists as the dark era or the heat death, the universe has reached its final state. Entropy, the measure of disorder, has reached its maximum. Every possibility has already happened. Every structure that could exist has already decayed. The universe has used up all its potential for transformation. What remains is not chaos, but perfect balance. If there were an observer, though none could survive to witness it, they might find this endless calm strangely beautiful. There is no violence, no collapse, no destruction. Just an infinite quiet where everything has finally come to rest. The heat death is not a tragedy, it is a completion. Imagine standing in a place where space has no horizon. Around you is only the faint shimmer of particles drifting apart, their paths never crossing. You could wait for eternity, and nothing would happen. Yet this nothingness is full in its own way. It contains the total memory of everything that ever was, every atom that burned, every star that lived, every planet that shone. All of that energy has now been spread evenly, gently, across the whole of existence. The universe has grown unimaginably large and unimaginably cold, yet it is also at peace. Every motion that once stirred its depths has come to rest. Every pulse of light, every wave, every atom is now part of one vast, uniform silence. Even in this silence, physics continues to whisper. The laws that shaped creation still hold true, even though they have nothing left to shape. Space continues to expand because that is what space does. Time continues to flow because that is what time must do. But nothing responds. The universe is a vast stage where the play has ended, yet the curtain never falls. The energy that remains is faint beyond comprehension. It is a thin mist of low-energy photons and neutrinos, drifting forever. Each particle travels through the infinite dark, almost never encountering another. The distances between them are so great that they may never meet again. They are the ghosts of everything that once was. Slowly, even the smallest variations in temperature fade. The cosmic temperature becomes perfectly uniform, reaching a point so low that it can never fall further. There is no more cooling, no more heating, no more flow of energy. The universe has become a perfect stillness, not frozen, but balanced in a way that can no longer change. The word cold no longer fits what this is. It suggests discomfort, a lack of warmth, something that could be fixed by light or fire. But there is no such thing as light or fire anymore. This cold is not cruel. It is soft, endless, complete. It is not something that happens to the universe. It is what the universe has become. In this infinite calm, there are no colors, no boundaries, no shapes. There is only the smooth continuation of being. The cosmos does not end with a bang or a collapse, but with an infinite sigh. It is the natural conclusion of all motion and all heat. For untold ages to come, this state will continue. The expansion will never stop. The faint radiation will never gather again. The universe will remain in this quiet equilibrium for longer than any concept of time can hold. And yet, in that endless stillness, there is something gentle, something peaceful. It is as if the universe has finally found rest after a lifetime of creation and transformation. Every explosion, every birth, every light and shadow has led here, to this perfect balance. The fire that once burned so fiercely has softened into an eternal calm. The universe grows cold, but it does not suffer. It only rests. It drifts within itself, content in its vast stillness. carrying within its silence the memory of every bright and fleeting moment that ever was. And though there will never again be light or warmth or motion, the universe will continue to exist in perfect equilibrium, quiet, smooth, and infinite. This is not the end of everything. It is the completion of everything, the long journey from chaos to calm, the story of creation closing in the gentlest possible way. The universe has grown cold, and in that cold, it sleeps peacefully forever. Chapter 11. Time moves on silently. The universe has grown cold, and now all that remains is time. There are no stars left to mark its passage, no rising or setting suns, no spinning worlds to divide day from night. There is only the smooth, endless flow of existence itself, moving forward without witness, without sound, without purpose. Time continues, because it must. Even in a universe where nothing happens, time itself does not stop. It stretches outward with the expansion of space, quiet and patient, a river that no longer carries anything in its current. The galaxies have long since drifted apart, and then disappeared into nothing. The black holes have evaporated into faint clouds of radiation that have themselves dissolved into the background of eternity. The temperature of space has settled into stillness. There is no more movement, no more transformation, no more birth or death. Yet time goes on, smooth and unbroken, like an ocean without waves. If you could somehow exist here, you would not see time pass. There would be no change to mark its flow, no rhythm to divide one moment from another. You would simply be aware of endless sameness. Every second would feel identical to the last, every age indistinguishable from the one before it. This is the quietest eternity imaginable. The universe no longer remembers what light was. Once, time was tied to the flicker of stars, to the orbit of planets, to the cycle of seasons. It was measured by motion, by warmth, by the pulse of energy through space. Now, with nothing moving, time has become invisible. It does not tick. It does not move forward or backward. It simply continues, infinite and soft, like a heartbeat that has slowed until it can no longer be heard. Even so, time still shapes the structure of existence. It is the foundation upon which all things rest, even when those things no longer change. Space and time are intertwined, and as space continues to stretch, time continues to unfold beside it. Together, they form the quiet framework of being. The expansion of the universe has slowed beyond comprehension. It continues only because it cannot do otherwise. The distances between particles increase, but at a rate so small that even eternity barely notices. There are no boundaries left to cross, no events left to separate one era from another. The universe has reached a stage beyond motion, beyond sequence, beyond story. And yet, within this infinite stillness, time does something remarkable. It endures. It does not fade. It does not decay. It remains constant, the one thing that continues when everything else has gone. It is the quiet reminder that existence itself never truly stops. Even when there is no energy, no matter, no life, no light, there is still duration, the endless background hum of being. There was a time when time itself began. It started with the birth of the universe, when everything expanded from an impossibly small, hot state into all that we now call reality. Every particle, every atom, every galaxy was born within that unfolding. Time was young then, restless and alive, moving with a rhythm of creation. But now it has aged beyond imagination. It has become slow and smooth, its surface perfectly calm. It might seem strange that time can move when nothing happens, but movement is not the same as change. Time is not what happens. It is the possibility of happening. It is the stage upon which all things could occur, even when no actors remain to perform. And so, even in the perfect stillness of a dead universe, time continues to flow quietly, invisibly, unendingly. If one could step outside of this timeless time, it might look like an infinite plane of stillness, stretching forever in every direction. There would be no sense of before or after, only a soft and continuous now. Everything that has ever happened would be contained within it: the birth of stars, the rise of galaxies, the dance of life, the slow fade into darkness, all present at once, like ripples frozen in an eternal sea. And yet, though time moves silently, it carries with it the memory of everything that once was. Every burst of light, every heartbeat, every whisper of wind is recorded in the structure of space itself. The universe remembers not with consciousness, but with form. The faint energy that remains, evenly spread across infinite space, is the residue of all things. It is the quiet archive of creation. Imagine floating in this darkness, surrounded by nothing but equilibrium. There are no stars to look at, no ground beneath your feet, no sound to break the silence. You would not know if 1 billion years had passed or if no time had passed at all. There is no difference anymore. The past and the future have become one long, continuous stillness. In the early universe, time was shaped by gravity, by the movement of matter and energy. Where there was mass, time slowed. Where there was emptiness, time flowed quickly. Now that all mass has faded, there are no such differences. Time everywhere moves at the same perfect pace, without distortion, without interruption. It has become pure. Perhaps, in some far and unreachable future, new physics might emerge from the vacuum fluctuations so faint and so rare that they could create something new. Perhaps a single quantum fluctuation might one day spark a new universe. Or perhaps not. Perhaps this silence will last forever, unbroken, perfect in its peace. No one can say. The equations only describe what is, not what might still be possible beyond infinity. As time continues, it stretches farther than imagination can reach. The word eternity begins to lose its meaning, because eternity is too short. The ages that pass make even the lifespan of the stars seem like a blink. The fabric of reality itself has grown thin and weary, yet it persists. This is not a tragic ending. It is simply the way of things. Everything that was once complex and bright has found its way to simplicity. Time has always been patient, and now patience is all that remains. It is strange to think that even now, as the universe rests in absolute calm, time has no reason to stop. It does not depend on movement or energy. It does not need an observer. It does not require a purpose. Time simply is. It always has been, and perhaps it always will be. If you listen to it, though there is no sound, you might imagine it as a gentle hum, a vibration beneath everything, soft and endless. It is not a ticking clock or a marching rhythm. It is more like a slow breath, infinite and weightless. With every passing age, time grows larger, but nothing within it grows. There are no boundaries, no beginnings, no endings. Just a smooth, continuous flow, unmarked and serene. It is a still river that never stops moving. The last atoms drift farther apart. Their faint energy disperses. Their positions stretch into near infinity. But time keeps them company, wrapping them gently in its invisible hands, holding them within the infinite embrace of existence. Even when there is nothing left to mark it, time itself is the last witness. It watches without seeing, moves without changing, endures without meaning. It is the soft shadow left behind by creation, and somewhere within its endless quiet, it holds the memory of everything that once was: the laughter of galaxies, the warmth of suns, the fragile shimmer of life on small blue worlds. None of it is gone, not truly. It is written into the deepest layer of reality, preserved in the structure of time itself. Time does not forget. It simply grows still. So it continues, age after age, without light, without motion, without end. The silence deepens, but it is not an empty silence. It is full of calm, full of balance, full of rest. The universe has no need for purpose anymore. It does not move toward anything. It has arrived, and time, patient and unyielding, continues to stretch beside it, endless and kind. In the end, when everything has faded and all energy has been spent, time itself becomes the last companion of existence. It flows through the dark like a soft current, carrying nothing but the peace of completion. And so, time moves on, silently. It does not look back. It does not hurry forward. It simply continues, forever in perfect stillness. Chapter 12. The Final Sleep. Time moves on, but there is nothing left to carry with it. The universe has grown old beyond imagining. It has passed through the ages of light, through the ages of darkness, through the long silence of stillness. Now it rests in the final state of existence, calm and infinite. This is not an ending filled with collapse or destruction. There is no sound, no explosion, no final flicker of light. The universe does not end with a cry. It ends with a sigh so quiet that no ear could ever hear it. It is not death, it is sleep. Every star that once burned has faded. Every atom that once shone with energy has gone still. Every particle drifts alone through the infinite dark, too far from any other to ever touch again. They float like memories suspended in an endless void. There is no light anymore. The last photon that once escaped from the last dying atom has stretched so far that it no longer carries any warmth, any color, any motion. It is simply a faint vibration in the structure of nothing. Space has become quiet beyond measure. The temperature of the universe has reached near absolute zero. At this point, even the idea of temperature begins to lose meaning. There is no heat to measure, no difference to compare. Everywhere is the same, perfectly uniform, perfectly still. The expansion of space continues, though there is nothing left to expand. The fabric of reality stretches thinner and thinner, softer and quieter, until even the concept of distance becomes almost meaningless. There are no galaxies now, no stars, no planets, no black holes, no matter, no form. There is only the smooth continuation of being, without features, without structure, without purpose. If one could still drift here, one would not feel anything. There would be no air, no warmth, no sound, no movement, no sense of direction. Up and down would no longer exist. Near and far would no longer mean anything. It would be as if existence itself had fallen into a deep, unending sleep. Yet this stillness is not empty. It is full of something softer than silence. It is full of rest. The universe has worked for an eternity. It has created light and shadow, gravity and fire, life and thought. It has given everything that could be given. Now it lies in the quiet, after the giving. It has nothing more to make, nothing more to destroy. It has arrived at peace. This peace is gentle. It does not demand to be noticed. It simply is. The universe has no memory of its creation now, but the structure of space still carries the trace of it, the quiet echo of the beginning, stretched and softened into infinity. The first spark of the Big Bang has become the faint hum of eternal calm. In the earliest moments, there was fire and motion. Everything was dense and bright, filled with energy and chaos. From that, stars were born, and from stars came light and warmth and life. But all that heat, all that brightness, all that beauty was borrowed. The energy that once burned so fiercely has slowly been given back, spread evenly throughout all of existence. Nothing has been lost. It has simply changed form. Now all forms are the same. Everywhere is balance. Everywhere is rest. This is the final sleep of the universe. A sleep without awakening. A rest without dreams. It is not a sleep that came suddenly. It arrived slowly, gently, over endless ages. It is the natural conclusion to everything that once was. Time still stretches on, but time itself has become soft and slow. It no longer measures change, for there is nothing left that changes. It flows like a quiet current through a sea without waves. Every moment is the same as the one before, and the one after, and the one after that, forever. In this vast stillness, even quantum fluctuations, those tiny tremors of existence that once flickered in and out of being, have nearly ceased. The vacuum itself has settled into perfect calm. There are no new particles, no new events, no ripples left in the fabric of space. The universe has reached the end of all movement, and yet it continues to exist. Existence itself does not need motion or light. It does not need observers or meaning. It simply continues, because that is what reality does. It is strange to think that the universe could be both infinite and asleep, but that is what it has become. It is like a single, eternal moment stretched across an endless canvas. The beginning and the end have met, and they are the same. The fire that once raged at the start has cooled into the soft breath of nothingness. If consciousness could somehow exist here, it would feel the universe's quiet heartbeat, slow and steady, beyond sound or sight. It would sense the calm of completion, the peace of having done all there was to do. There would be no fear, no sadness, no longing, only rest. The stars once sang across the heavens with their light. Galaxies once swirled in grand spirals, colliding and creating new forms. Planets once glowed with molten cores and oceans and skies. Life once thought, loved, built, and wondered. And now, all those stories have ended, folded into the silence of the whole. Yet nothing is truly gone. Every particle that ever existed still exists, though stretched thin across eternity. Every photon that ever traveled still travels, though its wavelength has become too long to see. Every motion that ever happened is still a faint trace in the geometry of time. The universe remembers not through memory, but through existence itself. And so, in this final sleep, everything that ever was remains in the softest possible way. The warmth of every sun, the whisper of every voice, the shimmer of every ocean, all of it still hums quietly in the foundation of space. Nothing has been erased. It has simply been smoothed into perfect balance. There is a stillness so complete that it becomes beautiful. A stillness that is not empty, but full of peace, full of acceptance, full of the infinite rest that follows all creation. The last remnants of energy drift endlessly, like faint ripples on an infinite pond. But there is no longer a center, no longer a boundary, no longer a shore. The pond and the ripples are one and the same. If one could look upon it, if looking was still possible, the universe would not appear as darkness, because darkness requires contrast. It would appear as perfect calm, a calm so vast that even the concept of nothing would seem too small to contain it. In the farthest reaches of time, so far ahead that the word far loses meaning, even the laws of physics may begin to fade. The structure of space and time may dissolve into something simpler, something beyond understanding. Perhaps reality itself will drift into a form where time no longer moves at all. Perhaps the universe will stop expanding, not because it has reached an edge, but because the concept of distance will no longer exist. This is the ultimate quiet, the final calm, the eternal rest that follows creation. The universe has no observer left to see it, yet it exists in the purest possible way, without need, without effort, without motion. It rests in itself. It does not seek to awaken, for there is nothing left to awaken to. It does not dream, for there is nothing left to imagine. It does not end, for endings require change, and there is no change left to come. This is eternity not as a length of time, but as a state of being, a state where nothing is missing and nothing can be added, a state so complete that even silence seems full. All that ever lived has returned to stillness. All that ever shone has returned to peace. All that ever was has become one with the calm of infinity. The universe sleeps, and in its sleep it keeps everything it ever was. Every star, every thought, every breath of wind, every whisper of love, all are folded gently into the endless fabric of rest. And though no eyes remain to see it, this is beauty beyond measure, the quiet beauty of completion, the soft ending that is not an ending, but a return. The universe has breathed its final breath. It lies still, weightless, eternal. This is the final sleep, not death, not disappearance, but peace. The fire has gone out, and in its place is the perfect calm of everything that ever was. Nothing stirs, nothing moves, everything is whole. Time continues, but it no longer matters. Space stretches, but it no longer separates. Existence remains, but it no longer asks why. The story of the universe has reached its last page. On that page there are no words, only silence. The silence of rest, the silence of peace, the silence of forever. The universe sleeps, and in that sleep it dreams no dreams. It simply is, forever.